Okay, I'm going to show you how to do this awesome speed ramp effect in DaVinci Resolve. Check it out. Although the speed ramping techniques in this can be used in pretty much any footage, I'm going to focus on drone footage, specifically a one take where we focus on several different objects. We're going to visit a local baseball diamond. I'm going to show you things to consider for planning and give you tips for flying your drone. Then we're going to go into DaVinci Resolve and I'm going to show you some post-production tips to get the speed ramp effect, to get it to line up on the beat of whatever song that you're using. And then we'll throw in a nice motion blur effect at the end. So let's head out to the site. Okay, so I'm at the ball diamond here. You could probably see me.
Max altitude reached.
You can see me on the ground here. We're gonna do a one-shot speed ramp. So I'm gonna feature that light over there, the roof, and this light. And then we're gonna orbit around and then focus on home plate. I think the trick is to pick things that are relatively close to each other and fly nice and slow and smooth and ramp into them for that wonderful effect. Before you even fly, you probably want to identify several key objects in the area and then plan out a route to go in between them. And remembering that you're going to be flying your drone, so you need to be able to transition fairly smoothly between the different objects. So rotating in view, changing your angle to approach certain things, and making sure that the motions are not too drastic, or you don't have to speed ramp through an entire orbit. One of the more important things for the speed ramp to look really good is to make sure that when you speed ramp, you're speed ramping to very specific shots that are well composed. So from good shot to good shot. You want to be thinking like, is this a nice looking picture? And that's what you want to ramp to. Usually you have to kind of get in medium, a little bit close to get that nice composition. Shots from farther away tend to lack a little bit of that composition and they're a little bit less interesting. Please do make sure you're comfortable flying at those proximities and be very careful when you're flying as well. On that same note, I would recommend to stand in a spot where you can see your drone at all times and also be able to ensure that it ends up clearing whatever obstacles that might be in the field. I needed to relocate myself after I did a take or two because I noticed I had to clear a particular light post. So I positioned myself directly underneath it so that as I was moving the drone sideways and focusing on the roof, that I would be able to ensure that the drone was in fact not going to hit the light post. A huge tip would be to fly as slow as you need to. There's no reason to rush this. The interesting thing is that the speed ramp ends up speeding everything up. So even if you're flying at a snail's pace, that speed ramp is just going to take care of that and it's going to look good. But what you cannot do is if you fly too fast, you can only slow it down so much. So try to shoot at 60 frames per second. Because there might be a lot of information here that I'm throwing at you, you're probably going to forget. I've went ahead and made a checklist, a list of tips and my workflow for this particular video. So I don't know, you could probably print it out or just have it handy if you're out on the field, or if you sit down and start working on DaVinci Resolve. There's going to be some tips there for you in that document. So hit the like button if you find that helpful. All right, let's get into DaVinci Resolve. What we need to do first is generate some proxy media. Okay, so now that the proxies have been created, we can scrub much faster. I'm gonna go ahead and make a timeline here. Might as well make it 4K 60. Then what we're going to do is drag our media into the timeline here. Okay, so we did 3 takes and we just have to maybe pick which one's the most effective. This one's good, except I decided to orbit all the way around. And in the third sequence, at this point, I break off and shift focus to the diamond. So the more takes you do, the more you'll learn from them. We shall choose sequence 3. Okay, now in order to get the speed ramps in, what you want to do is first pick out some energetic music. For the purpose of this tutorial, we don't really need to do that, but you can hit R on your clip to go to the retiming controls. Retime control should be R, or you can right click and hit it there. And we also want to do retime curve. And the first thing we need to do is sort of just pick out the first place we want to stop. So I like this shot up until here-ish. So I think it should start at about here. So at this point, I want to speed ramp into this. So I'm going to put a speed point here, and you go to the end of the clip here. You'll notice that the cursor becomes like a horizontal sizing tool. And if I bring it in close, it adjusts the speed, makes the speed much faster at that point. And you can see the curve went way off. We need to grab this percent here, because we're only seeing the part of the graph that goes up to 300% speed. As you can see, as I drag this, the graph comes into view, and we can just test out the speed. It's a little shaky. You can probably cut out some parts, like probably you can get rid of that part there. So we can make it a little bit faster. And again, by the way, Alt and mouse wheel helps you zoom in a bit. Okay, as you can see, that's a little bit fast. So I'm gonna pull this back out a little bit. Yeah, that's a pretty good one. So what we're gonna do is hit this speed point here and click this curve icon, and then we could drag this out a little bit to make it ramp in a little bit more smoother. So as you can see, the speed once we ease in is at 100%. We do have the option, well, if you record at say 4K 60, right now I have a 30 frame per second timeline, and so I can change this speed to 50. So the 60 frames will be stretched, so it'll be half speed. It allows that particular picture to stay in composition for a longer time. So I think right about here we can hit another speed ramp. So right wherever you want it, you want to click here on this and do add speed point. And then we can reset that to 100 and find the next place. I guess we can stop it there. So we had a speed point at the place that we want the speed ramp to stop. And then take this top part and drag it all the way here. Okay, so as you can see, we can afford to go a little bit faster. And when we do that, you'll notice that the graph goes out. I guess it also depends on the music that you choose, and you want everything to line up on the beat. Again, I'm going to hit these, click on these speed points and click the curve here, so we can have a smoother transition. Okay, and hit that, and maybe right there we can go off to another point. Add a speed point there. And zoom in a little bit there. Okay, curve it out. So if you need to line up on a beat, let's say the beat is a little bit sooner, you can drag this whole system from the bottom. So the top will adjust the speed in between the two speed points. Now the bottom will allow you to take that whole section and move it. Where we ramp to stays intact. Just we can get it to do the speed ramp a little bit sooner in the clip and thus line up with any beats that we need to hit. So if we needed this one to be a little later, we could push that back a little bit. And then sometimes you might want to slow this section down to 50% just to hold a better composition for a little bit longer. Sometimes if the speed ramp happens too abruptly, you start to lose a sense of actually it being one shot and a sense of actually getting to where you're going. Now, to top it all off, what you can do is put a little bit of motion blur. I currently do not have DaVinci Resolve Studio, so I can't use motion blur specifically, but there's kind of a little workaround that you can use if you're using the free version like I am. That is to go into the Fusion page and use a couple of nodes. One node is optical flow, and the other one is vector motion blur, and it provides a pretty decent effect. So what we need to do is we can keep retime controls on, but retime curve we don't need anymore because we're pretty much complete. And what we need to do is go to effects, grab an adjustment clip, and we're going to right click it and go to open in Fusion page. Okay, so what we're going to do is click on media in, shift space, and optical flow. Click on optical flow and then shift space, vector motion blur. Now, the interesting thing is that this really doesn't number on your GPU. So you want to kind of dial it in, and then you can optionally disable it, and then just remember to re-enable it once you go to export your project. So as you can see, if I'm here on frame 14 and there's no vector motion blur because the optical flow, I believe, informs the vector motion blur. So it pretty much detects motion and then feeds it to the vector motion blur. You don't need to apply it to the whole clip. That would probably destroy your computer. You could just go ahead and disable it so your GPU is not working overtime. You could just make it the size of your speed ramp. If you don't know where your speed ramps are located, click on your clip, hit R, or right click and go to Retime controls over here. And then you can see exactly where your speed ramp points are. And the little thing you could do is also taper the vector motion blur off a little bit. What we can do is hold Alt and then drag this to the next speed ramp. We can taper it in, taper it out, and then just pretty much do that for each of our speed ramps. So I really hope that this tutorial helps you bring your drone productions to the next level. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button. And if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe. Thanks for hanging out with me. Take care.